Attention Deficit Squirrel, New York. In that tree over there.
Oh, what is that? A warning! Oh no! Oh no! FBI? Who is this FBI? What are they trying to warn us about?
Let's hop in the old DeLorean, fire up the flux capacitor, and set the date for Monday. This past Monday. Yes, this past Monday, when I said this about Rayshard Crooks. I'm gonna go out on a limb here because I'm a squirrel and say that this guy has a history of breaking the law. And no, it's not because he's black, all right? It's not that. So just get that out of your heads right now. I'm gonna guess he does have a record or a history of breaking the law, at least because, I don't know. He tried to take an officer's fucking weapon? Maybe. Wow, I was right. Ho-ho, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. He must have a time machine. How else could I have guessed that a man risking his life to get away from the cops would have a criminal record and just so happen to be out on parole? Go figure. It must be a time machine.
1, 2, 3.
Hold it, fellas. I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
This was obviously no parlor trick, all right? We all saw this coming, all right? Normal people do not act that way, but as it turns out, it's far worse than I possibly could have imagined. Turns out Rayshard Crooks was doing 7 years on simple battery charges for cruelty to children. So, family violence battery, there's false imprisonment charges in there, obstruction of law enforcement officer. Go figure! So it's not the first time he's played asphalt twister with the cops. He has a theft charge by receiving stolen property, as well as criminal interference of government property. He also has 6 aliases, so a real man among men, this cocksucker.
I'm glad you did.
But he, like thousands of other criminals, sex offenders, and pedophiles, were turned loose onto our streets after the coronavirus outbreak started. One county in New York, Monroe County to be exact, had 50 inmates released onto their streets, including 8 sex offenders, 3 of whom were convicted for raping children, not to mention being level 3 offenders. But Squeezel, you might be saying to yourself, which is still a weird thing to be saying to yourself, what does level 3 offender mean? Well, I'm glad you thunk. That means not only are they very violent, but also have more than one, if not many, victims, as well as being very likely to reoffend. And all of them were staying at the same Holiday Inn in this one town. Jesus Christ, my children have never been molested. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Anyway, Rayshard Crooks was sentenced in 2014, so he only had about 1 more year to go. But there is a much bigger picture here, and other forces at work. So brace yourselves!
Hold on to your butts.
I smell corruption here, and we've only just begun. All together, over 16,000 criminals were released onto our streets by liberal lunatics who care more about thugs and pedophiles than they do about their own constituents. Although, it's very possible that criminals, pedophiles, and their constituents are one and the same. Doubt that to be true? Think I'm being a bit hyperbolic about that? Well then, don't take my word for it. Ayanna Presley had... Good enough, whatever. She had this to say. I think now would be the time to commute some sentences, to exact clemency, and to take care of our most vulnerable. Now, I know what she meant by that specifically, but the reality of what is happening is what can be inferred by what she said. In other words, she's painting these criminals out to be the victims here. But let's talk most vulnerable. What about the most vulnerable out here? Who's going to protect them when you release 16,000 criminals out into the fucking streets and castrate the police from doing their jobs, overtaking justified justified actions trying to protect the public from those criminals when they reoffend. And they are reoffending. In fact, we're seeing reoffending happening all up in this fucking place. And I don't see any of these animals exacting clemency on any of their victims, so why should we extend that branch to them? And speaking of smelling corruption, I'm sure most of you have caught more than a passing whiff of this pile of it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Atlanta DA Paul L. Howard. The L stands for Lorat. The same Paul Howard that padded his bank account with $195,000 out of a $250,000 grant that was given to the DA's office, as well as $25,000 that funneled through a nonprofit that he is the CEO of.
Well, how convenient.
So this guy is under investigation for violating state campaign laws, as well as sexual harassment charges that have been made against him and other shady shenanigans. And this is the guy in charge of the investigation for Officer Rolfe, a man who already has his own biases against police that I will get to in a moment. So anyway, let's get to what Howard the Rat had to say.
So in reaching our decision, there were some considerations that we considered important. And one of the things that we noted from our evaluation was that Mr. Brooks, on the night of this incident, was calm, he was cordial, and really displayed a cooperative nature.
I think you've had too much to drink to be driving. Put your hands behind your back for me. Here, put your hands behind your back. Hey, stop fighting! Stop fighting! Stop fighting! Stop fighting! You're gonna get tased! You're gonna get tased! Stop! Mr. Rolfe! Stop! Come on, man! Stop! You're gonna get tased! Mr. Rolfe! Hey, hands off the fucking taser! Hands off the taser! Stop fighting! Hands off the taser! Stop fighting! You got my fucking taser.
Secondly, even though Mr. Brooks was slightly impaired,
Yo! Yo! What's up, my man? Hey! What's my man? Hey! Hey, man, you're parked in the middle of the drive-thru line here. Hey!
Copy 41 no injury.
Sir.
285 westbound at Jones.
What's up, man?
285 west.
Hey, you're parked in the drive-thru right now. Hey, sir.
Called in by a third
You right?
party. Still black Toyota Camry and an unknown.
Dude, you're parked. You're sitting in the drive-thru line here. What's up? Sir, you're parked in the drive-thru line.
his demeanor during this incident was almost jovial.
Right, that's what the fucking taser.
But for 41 minutes and 17 seconds, he followed every instruction. He answered the questions.
That's what the fucking taser. Hands off the taser.
We concluded and considered it as one of our important considerations that Mr. Brooks never presented himself as a threat.
Nigga, please.
At the very beginning, he was peacefully sleeping in his car. After he was awakened by the officer, he was cooperative, but Mr. Brooks never displayed any aggressive behavior during the 41 minutes and 17 seconds.
He was just sleeping in his car like a little angel. I just can't believe the cops were banging on the window so hard for so long when he looked so peaceful sleeping there. Aw, you know, you almost hate to wake the little man. Oh, look, his little hands are twitching. He must be dreaming of beating his kids! For 41 minutes and 17 seconds. You got that, folks? That's 41 minutes and 17 seconds that he was a perfect gentleman for. Yeah, and until 1974, Ted Bundy didn't kill no one. What's your fucking point there, 4117, that you gotta say it so many times? This Howard guy is either such a fucking greaseball lawyer that he just naturally speaks in qualifying terms, or he just named Dave Chappelle's next comedy special. Of course he was being nice! Of course he was being cordial, because for 41 minutes and 17 seconds, he was hoping he was going to talk his way out of this. For 41 minutes and 17 seconds, he thought maybe, just maybe, he wasn't going to have to go back to prison for violating his parole by not only drinking, but driving while intoxicated, which would also be, by the by, his second DUI to boot.
My name's Pitt, and your ass ain't talking your way out of this shit.
But that ship had sailed by 41 minutes and 18 seconds, and after all of that, all bets were off. And that's when Rayshard Crooks showed his true colors. So I don't want to hear about how courteous he was being for 41 minutes and 17 seconds. I don't want to hear about what a perfect gentleman he was being for 41 minutes and 17 seconds, alright? And you know what this whole he was such a nice guy for 41 minutes and 17 second narrative makes me think of for some reason?
I mean, I thought he was a very nice gentleman. And I thought so right up till I slit his throat.
I don't know how my brain works that it makes me think of that clip, but it does. Anyway, this Howard the Rat guy is an obvious race-baiting, cop-hating, fucking scumbag hypocrite.
Goo gobbler, cocksucker, motherless fuck, shit stain.
Who is pounding that 41 minutes and 17 seconds into the collective consciousness that the wholesale sacrifice of the Atlanta Police Department and cops everywhere for that matter. And anyone who is buying that narrative needs to open their fucking eyes. Rayshard Crooks is not the victim here. He was a violent criminal who pointed a deadly weapon at an officer of the law and got what was coming to him. And the streets, his kids, and Wendy's drive-thrus everywhere are both much safer and better without him. And yes, a deadly weapon. A deadly weapon! But Squeezel, you might be saying, it was just a taser. Yeah, if only there was somebody who knows Georgia law and what Georgia law says about tasers. Oh, that's right!
Charged with aggravated assault of Ms. Pilgrim, and this is for pointing a taser at Mrs. Pilgrim. And as many of you all know, under Georgia law, a taser is considered as a deadly weapon. As many of you all know, under Georgia law, a taser is considered as a deadly weapon under Georgia law. Under Georgia law.
There it is, folks. Directly from the rat's own mouth. And in case you're wondering, he was talking about charges filed against 6 Atlanta police officers for the use of unnecessary force against protesters during the George Floyd riots, because the officers in question used tasers on the protesters. Okay? You got that? When a cop does it, it's unnecessary use of force with a deadly weapon. When a career criminal uses it against a cop, he was being really nice for 41 minutes and 17 seconds. You see, how much more fucking proof do you need that this rat is a fucking scumbag out to take down cops and let criminals rule the streets? Oh, and by the way, cursory glance at the image of the 6 officers being charged, and you can see that no one is safe from these libtards.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
He knows that outside of that 41 minutes and 17 second timestamp, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. He knows that. And that's why he wants to whip everyone up into a frenzy over this as soon as possible. Because once you have them angry, once you have them violent, once you get that narrative out, they are easily manipulated and easily kept in the dark from the light of truth, liberty, and most importantly, justice.
And that's what the Democrats and the liberal, the media has. If they can intimidate you, then they can control you. If they can make you angry, then they can control you. All angry people are blind. They're asleep and don't know it. The eyes are open, they're moving about, but they're asleep.
This is an inflection point for both white people and anybody with a lick of common sense, a shred of dignity, and a sense of true justice. This is where we need to say enough is enough. This is where we need to draw a very clear line in the sand.
I dare you to step over this line.
Okay, I'm a steppin'.
I dare you to step over this one. This one. This one. That one. That one. this one.
There is a very, very ugly kind of bigotry festering in this country, and it's groups like Black Lives Matter that are perpetuating this narrative, that are perpetuating the lie that we live in a racist country and the white man and the police have their boot on your back. It's groups like Black Lives Matter, a now self-proclaimed Marxist group, as well as a racist, divisive, violent cop-killing organization that teachers are exposing children to, sports organizations are kowtowing to and advertising for, and our leftist politicians are touting as if they're the fucking Peace Corps and an actual force of good in this world. They aren't, alright? They've done nothing good for anybody but the other Marxist, racist, divisive, violent, cop-hating cop killers.
That's what it is.
So, that's gonna be it for now. Please remember to comment, like, share, subscribe! Go for the ring, grab the bull by the horns, grab it by the pussy, god damn it, and thank you so much for watching. You know, fuck it, man. I gotta get back in time here and try to stop Black Lives Matter from forming in the first place, so let's see. I guess that means I have to save Michael Brown's life. Ah, fuck it, man. Some things were just meant to be.
Oh, you out of time, baby.
Joe Biden and the Democrats want to prosecute Americans for going to church, but not for burning a church. They believe you can riot, vandalize, and destroy, but you cannot attend a peaceful pro-America rally. They want to punish your thought, but not their violent crimes.
My son got gunned down today, and he didn't ask for it, especially by no damn USA Marshals.
So I'm a big fat wat. Ah, have some cheese, rat.